it's Lisa. I want to show you how I created some of these bookmarks using the Gelli plate, and we're going to do a little bit different process. We're going to be using something sticky on top of our Gelli plate to pick up our paint. And so it's kind of the reverse process that we normally do with the Gelli plate. So let me show you the supplies that I'm using. Of course, I have a large Gelli plate that's an 8 by 10, some acrylic paints, and I want some that dry reasonably quickly, and I'm just using some of my cheap acrylics, some marking tools, stencils, and book paper is what I'm going to be putting these final projects on, and some cardstock. But we need something sticky like self-adhesive laminating film, or in my case, I'm just going to use packing tape. The process that we'll be doing is we'll be layering our colors on, and we'll let the paint dry between the layers. And I'm putting on some gloves because I just did a manicure. I don't do that for my nails very often anymore, but since I did, I didn't want to mess it up. So the gloves that I get them from Sally's Beauty Supply, and what I like about them is that they slip on and off easily, so you can reuse them for projects like this. Unlike sterile conditions, for something like this, you can just take them off, and after you finish one layer of paint, come back, an hour later and put them back on and don't have to waste another pair of gloves. So I'm adding a couple of different colors of paint over this stencil. I want to be sure some of the Gelli plate is not covered with paint. So there's some areas that will have nothing on it. And you'll see why later on when we start working with the tape. Now I need to let this dry before I do another layer. And I've got some scrap paper I'll use to pick up some of that extra paint. This is reasonably dry. It doesn't have to be completely dry at this point, but reasonably dry. And I'm going to take another stencil and apply some paint through using a brush. And I started with the blue, and then I think I expanded to the purple on this one. This one's a Crafter's Workshop stencil. I don't remember which one, but just having some different designs here. And what's different about this Gelli printing, besides the letting the color dry between layers, typically when you're Gelli printing, what's on the bottom is what shows the most. In this case, it's going to be what you see is what you get. The top layers are going to show up the most on your prints. So as you layer it, whatever's on top are the colors that you will see in the final product. Instead of those being on the bottom of your project, they'll be on the top layer. So I'm going to do a couple of these circles on my Gelli print. And let that dry. I did one in a darker blue. I decided I needed a blue. And then I'm moving to some burgundy paints. I didn't give this color scheme a whole lot of thought, just, several sort of contrasting colors, but ones that would work well enough together. And this particular stencil is an old quilting stencil. So it has very little area that actually gets stenciled, a lot of negative space. So it just gives me a little bit of design, and that's fine because again I want areas of the Gelli plate that are not covered with paint. And then one of the last things I'm going to do here is to add some color using the middle of a tape roller, clear office tape. That's where this came from, and I'm just adding a little ink this way. And then I'm going to do a trick that I saw on one of the the Gelli plate folks' videos, Gelli Arts, and they used a Q-tip and picked up some black paint and dotted it around the design. Because again, this is what I'm seeing is what I'm going to get on my print, because I'm going to be putting clear tape, or I could use the laminating sheets, on the top, and that will pick up the color, and then I'll apply that to a background, in my case book paper. Now this will make about 5 bookmarks. And it needs to be very, very dry at this point. You can have it a little wet between your layers as you're putting your paint on, but you want it to be very, very dry at the end. So, and I'm not even worrying about my gloves because it's very dry. I'm not going to get any paint on my hands. I'm taking the packing tape because it's the perfect size for the bookmarks and putting a strip down. You want to press it down good to your plate and then peel it back up and the paint will come off. And if it's not coming off good, you just press again, burnish it a little bit more, and then peel it back off. First time I did this a year or so ago, I thought this was, a couple of years ago I guess, I thought this was the most amazing thing that it worked, that it pulled all that paint off. It's also a great way to clean your plate if you have extra paint on there. And then I'm just applying this to the book paper. And this is why you need some areas that are not covered in paint, because those areas will stay sticky and they'll stick to your book paper. And then you can take that to the paper trimmer and trim it down. And we'll go ahead and do a couple more. I'll speed up the video. But I'm just applying the strip of packing tape over the painted area and then pulling it back up. And I'm using all kinds of different book paper. If you don't have book paper, I do sell it on my Etsy shop, Lovely Layers Art. I've got some dictionary paper. I think I had some from a French book, so I hope whoever gets that one either doesn't speak French or it's nothing offensive. So, because I don't remember enough French to know. We'll keep adding these, and then I'll take them to the paper trimmer, trim them down, and I'll be ready to put them on their cardstock backgrounds. So I've just trimmed some cardstock down a little bit larger than the book paper, and we'll put a really good adhesive on the back of these. And with most of them, this is all I needed to do. But there were a couple where there were not enough blank areas on the Gelli plate, and I had so much paint that it didn't stick really well. And I just had to add a little bit of Tombow adhesive to add a little extra glue to hold things together. And I've done quite a few more in different colors. We'll see some of these in the final part of the video. And these are gifts for members of my book club. I made a bunch of these, and I made some other kinds of more traditional bookmarks, and I'll just put those out at our book club meeting, and then folks can take one as a little Christmas gift. So thanks for joining me today. I hope you like this little project, and it's a fun one to do. It doesn't take a lot of time, and it's really fun. Thanks.